That is it. The Last Dance reached its last dance tonight. Episodes 9 and 10 on ESPN. And man, it'll probably go down as one of the epic sports documentaries of all time. And here to talk about tonight and kind of wrap up the entire thing is my man from WKAR in Lansing. Massive Michael Jordan fan. He's been all over this, talking about it on his radio show the past couple of weeks. He's got the Laney High jersey behind him. Man, you know that he's an MJ guy. Mr. Al Martin joins us right now. Al, man, thank you for being here, dude. Let's get right into it, man.
Definitely, bro. First off, Ryan, thanks for having me, man. And I've been waiting for this for so long, bro. And now that it's taken away now, it's, those 5 weeks, I don't know about you, but those 5 weeks flew by, right?
Yes. I was thinking about that earlier today, man. I'm like, dude, has it really been a month? Are you kidding me? Like, I remember thinking when it first happened, I thought it was going to be 5 straight days. I'm like, we got to wait 5 weeks. Are you kidding me? And I couldn't believe it. It felt like week 1 again today.
Bro, I feel like I'm already having withdrawals from next Sunday around 9 o'clock. Like, oh man, we don't get 2 more episodes. Right. But and as you said, Ryan, I've been a fan of MJ, man, dating back to my middle school days. My fandom started due to my stepdad, who was like, yo, youngin', check out Come Fly With Me, check out Above and Beyond, check out Playground, and check out Airtime. We watched all of those one Saturday night when I was about 12 or 13 on VHS. Yes. And it's crazy. I'm a millennial. But still, my stepdad is so old school. He didn't have him on DVD yet. He had him on VHS. I still got him in my living room.
Yes.
It's like when I watched those 4 highlight tapes, right, my life was changed. I'm like, dude, this man is incredible. I've never seen anything like it. So that's when my fandom started, man. And I've been the number one MJ fan you'll ever meet in your life ever since, bro.
Yeah, I know, man. And I remember you had me on the show a couple years back, and we talked about exactly what you just said, man. And I think a lot of those tapes got a lot of people involved. I got them all. I got the box set, and I got the DVD set as well. But, hey, man, let's get into this, because this was all of those put together times about 100 with all the backstage news and everything. Before we get into tonight, episodes 9 and 10, how about just the entire thing as a whole? 1 through 10. What do you think? Was it what you thought it'd be? Was it as good as you thought? Did you learn? How much did you learn? Where would you put it? Can you put it on the pantheon of sports docs, man? What do you have?
It's up there, man. I think it's one of – I'm a little biased too, when evaluating that topic right there, right? I mean, we have never seen Michael Jordan, who I believe is the greatest basketball player to ever play. We've never seen him, Ryan, in this light.
Yep.
Mike is so private. We all know this. Mike never comes out unless he's like, courtside watching, his beloved Charlotte team in the NBA play, right? Other than that, you don't hear from him. He doesn't do interviews. This was Michael Jordan, raw and uncut. And that alone puts it up there with the greatest sports documentaries of all time. For me, and again, I'm probably riding high. We just finished watching episode 10, so I'm still riding high and just thinking about what this 5-week journey has been like. So for me, man, it's already on the Mount Rushmore of sports docs for me. Out of 10, I'll probably give it a 9.5, only because there were a few interviews that I would have liked to have heard, today. And a lot of those are circumstantial as well. I mean, I would have loved to hear David Stern talk some more, but of course, David, rest in peace. Right. He can't be with us, of course, to do the doc. When it came to the Bad Boys episode, I would have loved to have heard from Joe Dumars. In Playground, Michael Jordan says that the toughest guy to ever guard him was Joe Dumars.
Right.
But of course, with the whole Isaiah Thomas drama that happened there, we focused more so on Isaiah and the other aspects of the Bad Boys Pistons. So that's the only reason I'll give it a 9.5. But my fandom probably gives it a 10 anyway, when I think about this tomorrow, Ryan. It's unbelievable. Unbelievable, man.
Yeah. I didn't even think about Joe, but that would have been great. And that's another guy we don't hear from. Ever since he left the Pistons, I think I've seen or heard 2 interviews with him, and that's it. I don't know why he wouldn't have done this. Maybe they didn't ask him. Who knows? Right. It would have been great to hear from him. I knew going in there was a lot of stuff that I knew I was going to know. You know, I was a teenager during these years. I was locked into the NBA as much as I am now. You know, I was just a massive fan. Anything I could watch, learn, whatever. So I pretty much knew all of this. Like tonight, I tweeted out a few minutes before it happened, I think we're about to see Hollywood Hogan. And I was shocked by the amount of people that didn't know that happened. Like, I thought that was common knowledge today that he left. He missed practice to go to WCW Nitro in the NWO and all that. I was shocked at the amount of people that didn't know that. I was there. It was awesome. But
Ryan, I didn't. I'm one of those people. When they came in and said Dennis didn't show up to practice the following day, I said, what? Where is Dennis at? And when you talk about Dennis and what he did during that time, and you look at how Mike was bigger than life, you look at Scottie Pippen in the contract situation and the injured ankle, right, heading into that last year, and then you add all that with the fact that Jerry Krause had told Phil Jackson before the season even began that I don't even care if you go 82-0, this job will not be yours come next season.
Right.
All of that drama that the Bulls had to balance and go out there and perform and try to win those championships. I respected those championship runs to the utmost, but I even had to bring it up. My respect had to go up another notch after seeing all of that behind the scenes stuff that I really didn't know what was happening. I had no idea that was going on, Ryan.
Well, and you hear stuff, but to actually see it was incredible. And man, the biggest winner out of all this, and you don't really hear much from him either, because of what you just mentioned, is Phil Jackson. He's the biggest winner out of all of this, to keep Jordan, letting Jordan be Jordan, letting Dennis be Dennis, because you know he could show up and grab his 17 rebounds at age 38, by the way. People didn't realize how old he was.
Amazing.
All the stuff going with Pip. He's injured. He's doesn't want to play. He didn't have his surgery in time. Jordan's mad at him, all that stuff. Luke Longley, who we did not hear from at all, hates Michael Jordan. He doesn't want anything to do with Michael Jordan because of being a jerk to him. Like Luke didn't like him. So managing all those and then doing it again with Jordan and Shaq, or Jordan, with, a lot of people are going to say, I just Freudian.
That's another Jordan.
Yeah, Kobe and Shaq. To do it again, to keep them together for their 3 straight championships. My gosh, if you didn't think Phil was the man, you better after that.
That final episode where Steve Kerr is saying, we sat around, Phil told us to write what this experience playing for the Chicago Bulls has meant to each and every one of us. They hold a ceremony where they all write, something down. Michael opened up and wrote a beautiful poem, apparently, and they all burn it in a coffee can. That's like, that's on some Zen Buddhism, like yoga type stuff, man. You know what I mean?
And that's what he does. Yeah.
That's what he does, man.
Bro, and I'll tell you a couple of things on that. I had never heard that story before. But that's what Phil would do. And it's kind of strange today. Imagine 25 years ago people are like, what is this witch doctor guy doing? Like a lot of people were like, what is this stuff? Like, had incense burning in the locker room, turning the lights off, playing crazy music, making the dudes sit there and kumbaya and stuff. He made
Dennis Rodman and the Native American connection, right? The Native American connection with it worked.
It worked, man. But yeah, that was something I had never heard before. That was a great way to end it. Punching us in the face with that. But yeah, man, let's get into parts 9 and 10, and then we'll get at the end. We'll talk about, maybe a couple of points that stood out to you the most over the whole thing. And this one, right out of the gate with Reggie, don't ever talk trash to Black Jesus. You know where we're going. You know where we're going to end up going with this. And they get into their whole thing there in the Eastern Conference Finals. Reggie punches him right back. Game 4 hits the game winner. And then we get into Carl. And I think this might have been the most obvious thing in the entire doc, that you knew his chip this time was going to be Carl won the MVP in 1997. We jump into the flu game, and wow, we have never heard this much detail on the flu game before. And that was the first thing. And maybe the biggest thing that stood out of this entire night, everybody was talking about that online. What'd you take away from that? Now everybody's calling it the food poisoning game. Because, yeah, we haven't really heard all the details. Just your thoughts and takeaways on that. And obviously there's still a lot of people that don't think that's what happened. But, go ahead, man.
I knew that it was food poisoning because you've heard the rumors, Ryan, right before this, that it wasn't the actual flu, but nonetheless. And then I will say this: Tim Grover did an interview. Michael Jordan's trainer, Kobe Bryant's trainer as well. He's coached a lot. He's trained a lot of the greats. He was on a national program this past week where he told that story about how, we're sitting around and George, Michael's best friend, they're like, oh man, MJ wants some food. There's only one pizza place open. A bit odd that 5 guys come to the door to deliver the pizza. I think they're like, oh man, this may be a pizza for Michael Jordan. I don't know, and here's where the conspiracy theories pop up. I don't know if they intentionally, knowing that it was a Utah pizza place, if they intentionally poisoned Michael. All I know is this, and maybe some people are going to switch up now and call this the food poisoning game and not the flu game. Regardless, because that was my favorite part tonight. It was just so great to see that moment, how they profiled the music and everything. But Mike was curled up in a ball, had chills, throwing up all night. You could see him physically exhausted during every timeout, needing an ice pack on his back to cool him down. Had a towel over his head. For him to go out there, and correct me if I'm wrong, it was 38, right?
38.
To go out there and put up 38 points when you're feeling like complete crap. That's Michael Jordan, in my opinion, Ryan, the greatest winner of all time.
Yeah.
Of all time. He found a way, no matter how he felt like he had an obligation to his team, to his city, the city of Chicago, to go out there and give it his all, whether he was hurt, whether he was sick, no matter how he was feeling. And that really epitomizes who Michael Jordan is, Ryan.
Yeah, man, and to do it in that arena too, because that was one of the loudest arenas that there were, and they had noisemakers and all sorts of stuff in there, man. That place was insane when the Jazz were good back then, man.
Phil Jackson had in the earphones and like trying to deal with the noise, right?
Yep,
crazy.
Yep, absolutely, man. Yeah, pretty cool to hear all that and hear it from everybody's perspective and just how all that went down. Very cool stuff there, man. And then not great stuff, but Steve Kerr's dad. Once again, I didn't know that story. But not in detail like this. Not told the way they told it. Hearing from Steve Kerr's mom,
right?
That was pretty. It just well told, man. And again, something I don't think a lot of people know at all. And they may have heard maybe his dad died, but how he died and what he was doing and being in Beirut and all that sort of thing. The one takeaway from that, though, and I don't know, everybody's different, and maybe these guys probably don't want to talk about it because it hurts. But I found it interesting that Mike and Steve have never spoken about their dads with each other because both of their dads were shot and killed.
That's where I was going next.
Interesting.
Very. And that goes back to what I stated earlier and what we just talked about, Mike being so private. Even though that was such a public moment for Mike when his dad was murdered, and Steve goes through the same thing, right? During his youth, Mike is still so he is still so private. He has such a small circle, right? And we saw one member of his circle that was really cool. He profiled Gus, his security guard, right? Yep. That was awesome to see. But Mike is still so private that he just doesn't open up like that. But I found it interesting as well because they're teammates and it's not every day where you have a teammate where, his father is killed the same way yours is. Yeah, you would think that a conversation happened somewhere, right? During those moments. But yeah, I found it a bit odd as well, Ryan.
But once again, we don't know when that fight happened. I can't remember exactly when it was. The fight between the two, and Jordan didn't even have Steve Kerr's phone number. So, maybe these dudes, You know,
Yeah, they ain't that close, right?
Yeah, well, and it's not the iPhone days where you lock somebody in immediately. I mean, he may have been calling Kerr's house phone. I don't know what he was doing.
Yeah, because he had to call the Bulls facility and say, "Hey, you got Steve Kerr's number? Shoot it to me." Right? So yeah.
But that tells you both of those stories take you into Michael Jordan and who Michael Jordan is, and you, like you said, his best friends, his really only friends on the team were guys like the security guards and all of that. And then of all people, and this is another thing, a lot of people didn't know, dude, his like best friend is Ahmad Rashad. And
yep.
I did find it, being a journalist, and I know you do as well, I found it interesting that he was just chilling with Mike and the security guards before that one game in Chicago. I found that
That was game 7. Game 7, Ryan.
Indiana
like Ahmad is just like, yeah, he's just sitting there, like chilling, and Mike is just talking to him, like, you know, they're just having a conversation prior to tip off like that.
Right. And I'm not surprised that it happened because they're best friends. I mean, but what surprised me, like, didn't Ahmad, like, what time was this? Didn't he have anything to do pregame? Like,
yeah, is he supposed to go live soon? Right? Like, you know, putting on makeup, getting ready, you know, I don't know.
Through, you got like a mic check or something you got to do. Like,
that's a good point. That's a really good point. As a journalist, now that you bring it, I didn't think about it at the time, but now that you bring that up, Ryan, I'm like, yeah, what in the world? This had to be hours. I mean, because Mike was still in the suit, though.
Right.
So, you know, it had to be hours and hours prior to tip off. Yeah, I'm guessing.
That was interesting. But again, that was something a lot of people were like, what in the heck? He's just hanging back there. But yeah, I mean, anytime you'd watch anything with Jordan back in the day, it was Ahmad. Ahmad was his guy. And even till today, the MJ at 50 thing the NBA TV did, they brought Ahmad out of retirement to do that whole special and everything because that's his guy, man. That's his best friend.
They were so close.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think there's footage in
man, you get to do whatever you want.
Yeah, you got free reign, right? And I forget which doc it is. I want to say Above and Beyond, but they show Ahmad and Mike just like really kicking it, playing golf. They're like in the backyard playing pickup football. They're playing football in the backyard, and Mike is like testing his arm out and seeing how far he can toss the football. Yeah, they go way back.
It's
like the next neighbor's yard.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. It's great footage. Check out Above and Beyond if you haven't.
And then the other thing, when he kept saying, I ain't Shaq, you know, once again, seeing this dude, he is who he is, and he knows it. And even
he knows it.
30 years later, or whatever we are, 22 years later, he would say that same exact thing again, sitting in his living room in his chair. And my God,
he is and that's the thing, Jordan. You know what I really think a lot of people got out of this doc, Ryan, was when you look at moments like that, Michael Jordan was an unapologetic winner.
Yeah.
Simple as that. Like that was his sole goal. You know, it's interesting, man. Now I'm thinking about it right now. One of the big topics that I touched on current sports was the moment when they talked about, because this is something that's always talked about in the barbershops in Detroit where I'm from, Mike and his quote unquote lack of social activism.
Yeah. And
him not giving back like a lot of people thought that he should have throughout his career, and his lack of political statements, and people trying to compare him, you know, to Muhammad Ali and LeBron and what they've done. What Mike let it be known in this doc was that at the end of the day, he didn't look at himself like that. He was strictly going out there to win basketball games. Mm-hmm. Simple as that. And at the end of the day, yeah, would it have been nice if Mike was more active in especially the black community and more verbal in the black community? Yeah, that would have been nice. But at the end of the day, Mike strictly was about basketball and was strictly about winning. At the end of the day, when you come out and say that and you're letting it be known, I can't knock you. If that's what you do and that's what you want to be known for, I can't knock you. And you know, Mike and the trash talking and my favorite part of the docuseries was the end of episode 7, Ryan.
Oh.
And I'll expound upon that later. I know we want to finish up on episode 9 and 10, but I got some points I want to make about the end of episode 7 when we talk about our overall takeaways. But yeah, like you said, at that moment where he said, I ain't Shaq, we saw moments like that throughout the entire doc, didn't we?
Absolutely. Meaning, if anybody didn't see it or didn't understand, meaning I'm the man. I'm not letting crap slip. Don't worry about, he talks a big game. He's big. I'm, like he said earlier, I'm God. I'm going to win this. Forget it.
Right. Exactly.
I love that. Jumping into, we mentioned it earlier, Dennis Rodman, who didn't get a lot of run in this. I thought he'd get more. The last 5 episodes, really, we didn't see much of him at all. And then
No, we didn't.
We did see him today talking about missing practice, going to WCW at the Palace of Auburn Hills. I was in attendance for that, 1990.
You were there.
You
were there.
Oh, I was there.
Do you remember that vividly, watching that?
Oh, my gosh, I remember it more than vividly, man. Like, I am NWO for life till this day, as you can see.
The belt.
I could probably come over here and start hitting some buttons and make NWO noises if I wanted. I can do it. Like, here we go. Watch it.
Okay.
I can do that. Yeah. So.
Oh, you're serious, Ryan. You're serious about your wrestling.
And
man,
Rodman came out, and he was unadvertised, obviously, and he comes out, and we're like, what? In the middle of the finals? Because we knew he then later wrestled Karl Malone later that summer, and it was a cool thing.
Right.
It was Hogan and Rodman against DDP and Karl Malone, and they were on the Tonight Show. They took over the Tonight Show and all that. So that was sweet. Seeing that
in the middle
cool.
of the finals, that happens. Like I said, back to what we were talking about. If that happened today, and what's so cool about it, they showed the footage of Dennis coming back, and that moment where Phil is like, he's just addressing the Dennis not being there, and I think Jordan, you think Mike may have went off during that moment, but they knew how to manage him. That's the amazing thing. Like, I think Jordan was joking, calling them Rodzilla. You know what I mean? Like, it's amazing to me because we've never seen prior to this doc what went into trying to manage Dennis Rodman on that Bulls team, driven by the man in Michael Jordan, who was all about winning, didn't want any distractions. But Jordan was so sympathetic and open to dealing with Dennis.
Yeah.
And he did it so lightheartedly. That really surprised me. Surprised me, Ryan.
They knew they needed him, too. They knew they needed him, because you look at 95, there's a lot of talk in this doc, and of course, history is written by the winners, and Jordan was the winner, and Jordan basically had carte blanche to make his own documentary. He had final say on everything. We heard Ken Burns getting upset about saying, hey, this isn't real journalism. Well, he's the winner. He gets to say whatever he wants. There's a lot of false truths. Yeah, I do think, of course, maybe he wasn't ready for the playoffs in 95. But you look at his averages, you look at his field goal percentage, you look at all that stuff in the playoffs in 95, they were really good. So it's not like he sucked in those playoffs. Oh, it's because he wasn't ready because he was playing baseball. I think there was some of that, but let's not act like he was going 6 for 25 and 15 points per game in those. So I think you can rewrite a lot of stuff. And the main reason they lost to the Magic is because they didn't have Horace Grant that year. That's why they lost.
Exactly.
Because Horace Grant was on the other team, and they didn't have that power forward. The reason why they treated Dennis Rodman the way they treated him is because they knew they needed Dennis Rodman. And they mentioned it. They set this up earlier in the doc. Here he is on a 5-day bender, comes back, and he's running laps around dudes the next morning like nothing happened. And they're like,
he was a freak, wasn't he?
I guess he can do whatever he wants because he's going to get 18 rebounds tonight. The editing, man, they jumped into game 6. That whole sequence, man, and I know you know about putting stories together and whatnot. The editing going into the final shot and just the way they did the whole final shot, I thought was awesome. At one point, after he made the shot, it was all noise. They killed the entire noise. They're focused on MJ's face, and it just goes into him talking about what he's thinking, what's in his mind, and everything else gets blocked out. Thought that was great, man.
It was beautiful, man. And that also was one of my favorite parts. Watching that, first off, can we give a shout out to the soundtrack of this docuseries? I've loved it. We've heard LL Cool J. We've heard Mace. We've heard P. Diddy. We've heard Prince Party Man. And, the instrumentals have been so good. Yeah, and I think every instrumental, Rakim. Oh, how can I forget King Rakim? I mean, come on, man. It's been so good, and and they matched up with every year. Like, if you're watching a scene from the '80s in the docuseries, they'll play a song from the '80s. But that moment when they show that final shot that Mike took in the Bulls jersey, like you said, the editing was so well done, and they start playing that. I don't know who made that instrumental, but I know it's in the Denzel Washington film where he plays an assassin.
The dings going over and over again.
The dings going over and over. Yeah, it's a really popular movie instrumental, I know. And it was so fitting. It's so suspenseful.
Yeah. And
then it goes into one of the greatest sequences we have ever seen from an NBA player or basketball player, period. Any sports figure, period. And we get a glimpse into what we get a nice summation of what makes Michael Jordan the best.
Yep.
He realizes that, okay, time is ticking here. We're down. I need to score. And I've always been in favor. Look, if you're down in the final minutes, you can never go wrong with a hard drive to the hoop. He goes and hits the layup. And then on the defensive end, Michael Jordan, a 9-time all-defensive team, first-team selection, DPOY as well. That's what makes him great on both ends of the floor. He realizes that they ran the same play a few times in that fourth quarter in those closing moments. He doesn't close out. Mike's on the weak side, helps out on Karl Malone, gets the steal, then goes down the other end and the pat on the butt on Brian Russell. And I love Costas. I don't. Maybe you had the exact line he used tonight, but he was like, it's
the maitre d' like, taking you to your table.
How beautiful was that? Because that's what it was, Brian. His momentum was already going there.
Yeah. Well, here's something, though. I found this fitting. I found this fitting, and I never realized it in my entire life until tonight when it happened because of what's happened the past 5 weeks.
I think I know what you're going to say.
Isaiah Thomas is the color commentator for that game. Isaiah Thomas is the one that says, now watch, he pushed off. Now, Isaiah Thomas has been pimping him the whole game now, though. I mean, they had all these other things in there where he was pimping the heck out of him, saying he's a monster or a killer. He's a killer. But that, to this day, is still – he pushed off. He pushed off. Oh, there's people that say that now. Now, we saw a real push-off with Reggie in Game 4 of the ECF, right? That's a real push-off. He didn't push off on him. But Isaiah –
not at all.
Because of Zeke. For the rest of the universe, people are going to say he pushed off on Russell, dude. I
knew you were going there. I knew you were going there, Ryan, because, Zeke was on the call during that moment. And then, Mike, after he hits the shot, he talks, and it's just great footage as well of seeing him celebrate and go to the hotel and he's playing the piano. And he says, because, he was so tired, so fatigued, they had logged so many minutes in that game and the games prior to, that he was coming up short so much because he's so tired that, he had to, finish it off with the wrist just to make sure that ball got in there.
Yep.
I mean, it was beautiful, man. Beautiful. Yeah. Beautiful way to go out, but I wish it would have kept going, though, man.
Yeah, well, and, my gosh, dude, we can go on forever. Every time I'm like, okay, that's it. There's more and more. And, you said going on forever.
Yeah.
Never heard all this either. Let's get into the end. You mentioned the piano and all that. Stuff we've never seen before. That was awesome. What great footage to see them celebrating. Now all the guys go to a club in whatever city they're in. If they're in their hometown or they're in the Way City, they already have a club reserved, ready to go. They just go back to the hotel and run up and down the halls, man. That was great. But, man,
right.
Reinsdorf, and you said you wish it could go on again. We never heard this whole deal here, how it happened and all that. MJ getting the iPad, his face, I thought there was priceless. He had never even heard the real reasoning behind that. It would have been awesome to see him come back again and remember that's the lockout shortened season, 1999. But but Michael was injured. He cut his finger on cutting a cigar. So he had he nearly lost the tip of his finger or something, man. And so he couldn't really play anyway. But I'm glad they didn't come back because it leaves this mythical aura around this team because they never did lose in the finals, because they did win 3 straight. And then they all left. All of them. Pippen, Rodman, Jordan, Phil, Kerr. They were all gone. Tony Kukoc and Ron Harper were the only 2 guys left on that team. And Randy Brown were the only guys left on that
Don't
team.
Forget Randy Brown. Don't forget Randy Brown, right?
I think they finished like 13-37 in the shortened season that next year. So I'm glad they didn't. Now, then 18, 19-year-old Sloak would have loved to see him play again. But, man, the ultimate what if. And, again, a great way to end it there.
It was great. And that, it's funny you bring up the point of ending it in 98, leaving this kind of mystique over the team that already Michael Jordan has, right? Mike has such a mystique about him because of what happened during the prime of his career in the 90s. I mean, you bring up the baseball years as well, man. And, oh, man, Jordan could have won 2 more there and maybe 2 more on the back end if he would have stayed after, if they would have kept the team together after 98. And that mystique also is what makes him so legendary and so iconic in the eyes of so many, right? And for me, Ryan, when looking at that moment where he had to show Jordan the iPad, he listens to what Jerry Reinsdorf says, and you can tell MJ ain't buying that mess.
Right.
He's sitting there saying, look, man, you could have signed Kerr and Butchler, all these guys to 1-year contracts. Right. I'm sure they would have loved to stay around. I have been doing one-year contracts, forever. Right. Pip may have needed some convincing, but look, man, he probably, we could have probably worked that out, and he may have joined us. And then he starts commenting on, if it's maddening that he left at his peak, right? And he said, hell yeah, it's maddening. Look, I'm at the top of my game. Would I have loved it? Who knows what would have happened, but would I have loved to come back to see if we could have got number 7? Of course. Why would you, at the top of your game, Ryan, why would you ever want to leave the game? You want to go out. I know. Everybody wants to go out on top, and it's great. And just like you said, it adds to Michael's mystique that he left at the top of his game with the shot and posing and all that stuff. Great. But, dang, man, the competitor in him is saying, dude, we could have had one in 99, and who knows how much. You know what I mean? So I just and give Krause credit. I'm pretty sure you've said this during your podcast, Ryan. Give Krause credit because he was a mastermind in surrounding Mike with the pieces, right?
You have to. Look at that.
You got to give him credit.
Man. And that's all him.
Yeah. All him. He was a genius in surrounding Mike with the correct pieces to give him the tools he needed to win. But at the same time, dude, pride comes before the fall.
Yeah.
He wanted more credit.
Somewhere before.
Oh, you've heard that. Wink, right? Pride comes before the fall. And look, man, he wanted more credit. He wanted to be looked at as Mike and the mastermind behind it, which he was. But look, man, when you got Michael Jordan on your team, what do you expect, dude? When he's the guy in charge. So it's unfortunate that got in the way, and Krause's legacy now is being debated, especially after this docuseries.
Right. So he deserves all the credit in the world, but he wants all of the credit in the world. He wants more than all. He's got Napoleon complex, man. That's that Napoleon complex. Yeah. Well, and let's talk about that mystique a little bit, because this is my biggest takeaway from this entire thing is what this has done to America and what this has done going forward, what this has done with everybody on earth. Because I know you're around, especially Michigan State guys. I don't know with all of this, if you've had any chance to talk to any of the basketball players or the football players about this or about Jordan at any time during your career. I know I personally have not, but being online and around high school kids that I'm around all the time, maybe 1 or 2 out of 15 say Michael Jordan's the greatest player of all time. It's either Kobe or it's LeBron. And hearing all this, and a lot of them, the funny thing is, they're not even watching this because you can't get kids to watch a 2-minute Twitter video, let alone a 10-part they ain't going to watch it. My man, I love him. Yeah. I talked to one guy who's the best basketball player in the state currently, I hit him up tonight because I wanted to talk to him, and he's like, "Nah, I heard a lot about it though." He didn't even see one episode yet. I'm like, "What are you doing?"
What? Hold on, is this the player I'm thinking about in my mind? EB?
No.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he's a local guy over here, but
Got you in Flint. Okay, Flint area.
Tell me about that and what you think, and about, and you mentioned the mystique. Imagine if he was, and I hate the stat. People going, well, LeBron's 3-6 and Jordan's 6-0, but imagine if he was 6-1. Imagine if he was 6-2. That 6-0 does give him that mystique. And man, if he was 6-1, what would people say? All these kids that are saying LeBron's better or saying Kobe's better.
Right.
Just wondering what you've heard about that, and what have you talked to any kids, and what do they say? What are their reasons behind? And has this changed anybody's mind that you know of?
Well, I tell you what, I haven't gotten a chance to talk to any Michigan State athletes yet. I got some coming down the docket that are going to join the show who are hoop fans, and a few who I know openly say, yeah, LeBron is the guy. And what's interesting is I've gotten a chance, just speaking on this topic from my personal point of view here, I got some younger cousins who came into this docuseries. It's amazing. They're like 14, 15, and they missed a few episodes live, but they would go back and watch them. And there were so many different things, of course, them being that young, that they had no idea about Jordan, that they learned while watching this docuseries. And they came in gun-ho LeBron. I think, Ryan, the last conversation I had with them last week, they're turning a bit now. And you know what? They're leaning. They're leaning. And that's what I love about it, man, because it irks me. You can't, that's the big debate in basketball barbershops, right? When you go to the barbershop, Jordan or LeBron, left and right. And I get it. LeBron, don't get me wrong. LeBron James, when his career is said and done, he's on the Mount Rushmore. I got him at number 2 all time right now.
Me too.
He's unbelievable. Unbelievable. But at the end of the day, when you look at what Mike was able to accomplish throughout his career, and for me, Ryan, this is what, in my opinion, this is what puts MJ above LBJ, among a few other things, but this really what does it for me. That mentality.
Yeah.
That muscle between the ears. And I'll just dive right into it right now. I kind of previewed my favorite part, which was the end of episode 7. And when I saw that, it gave me chills, man, because that mentality is what propelled Jordan to become the greatest winner we've ever seen. He did not care if he was not nice to you. He didn't care if he came off as a tyrant. At the end of the day, his number one job was to win basketball games. And if you were going to go, he had a job to do. And if you were going to go to war with him, he had to make sure that when the tough got going, he could rely on you to be right there by his side doing your job. And if he had to push you, that's what greatness is about. It isn't always about being the nicest guy in the room. And I think we can all learn something in our own careers, in our own lives as it pertains to that. If you got a goal in mind, and if you don't have, Ryan, people around you that are supporting that goal or are getting the best out of you in order to achieve that goal, then you either better, 1, figure out how to get them on your level, or 2, cut them off. You can apply that to so many different areas of life, Ryan, and that's what I respect so much about it. And you could tell how much it shocked me how much it bothers Mike.
Yeah,
he teared up. Still, it bothers him, Ryan. He teared up at the end of episode 7. Look, saying I don't have to do this, but I'm going to say this because this is who I am. Play that way if you want to play that way. If you don't, you don't. Yeah. At the end of the day, I had one job, and that really was just that mentality. I'm sorry, LeBron ain't that guy.
No,
LeBron is not built that way. We've seen him many moments in the crunch time. He's looking for the best play. Which is not wrong. Okay, yeah, find the open man, but that killer mentality, he's a different player. He's a different player, Ryan. Different player.
I mean, I don't like eras, they're, well, look who he's guarding. I can punch a hole in anybody's. I love all these things I keep seeing online where he's being guarded by like someone who works at H&R Block or whatever, and it's like Dan Marley or it's
Danny
Jeff Hornacek, right? Danny Ainge, like fill in that white guy who's guarding. And yes, they may not be the most athletic person in the world, but my argument to that would then be, you know what team had more white guys than anybody else on earth to win the NBA title? The 1996 Chicago Bulls. There were 6 white dudes on that team, and all of them but Jack Haley played all the time. Jack Haley's the only one that did not play. So how good does he have to be then to drag these bums up and down the court? I mean,
preach, Ryan.
Everybody else in the world. Look, guess what? That's every one of his teammates. Not named.
Exactly.
I mean, come on, man.
You are so right. And that's the thing. It's so, when you start comparing eras, it gets so sticky because of what you just mentioned. And also, too, man, I would have loved to have seen Michael play in this era where, if you just get touched, it's a foul.
Right.
And place LeBron into the physical era. Can you imagine how amazing it would be to see LeBron go against the Detroit Pistons bad boys and get knocked upside the head and thrown down to see if he could overcome that like MJ did? Because like Dennis said, well, John Sally, I think it was, the Spider, like we were trying to kill Mike, but he was still giving us like 30 points to maintain that level of greatness while getting your block knocked off. Amazing. Yeah.
Without the hand checks, what would Michael be doing, dude? When you look at eras, dude, I just take it and everybody's going to adapt. They're going to adapt. If Michael was 30 years younger, well, he would grow up like Steph Curry grew up. He would grow up like LeBron grew up. So he wouldn't know any different, and he would adapt. And you look at his athleticism, you look at whatever. So basically, when you're putting these pecking order lists, you just look, okay, did LeBron dominate his era more than Michael Jordan dominated his era? Who was the better player of his era? Well, it was MJ. Okay. And that's why Bob Cousy is like super high on those lists. I mean, Bob Cousy ain't guarding freaking Steph and AI and Zeke, but during his day, guy was the best point guard that there was, man. I mean, so you just look at it like that. And yes, every one of those guys, including Bob Cousy, who's out there wearing Chuck Taylors playing basketball 82 days and flying coach and all this crap, not in, luxury, whatever.
Yeah.
They would have adapted. I mean,
they would have adapted.
You adapt to what you're doing. I mean,
that's the thing too. That's like the factor that you really can't measure, right? You know what I mean? Like, you put MJ in this era. My gosh, man. I mean, it's fun to have the argument. It's a fun argument. But at the end of the day, when you look at it, man, for me, Ryan, like the closest thing to a perfect basketball player was MJ, in my opinion. The dude had no weaknesses. He was the ultimate winner. He was the ultimate competitor, and I always bring up the defensive argument as well. Being a 9-time all-defensive first team, winning the defensive player of the year when he did. I mean, and also Mike, being the competitor that he was, he even said, look, I'm going to go into the dunk contest because I want to compete. And he won that thing. Right. And then how about that second dunk contest against Dominique? I think Dominique's the greatest dunker of all time. Well, Vince, then Nick. Yeah. Vince is my guy, then Nick. But Mike wanted to compete in everything. That was just a different mentality, man.
It's a different era. You mentioned your number one takeaway. Man, that was huge. I think episodes 7 and 8 were the best too. I thought last week was the best week of this 5-week journey. I agree with you 1,000% on that, man. You got one or two other ones that really stand out to you that you're going to remember?
Yeah, for sure.
Or, whatever.
I loved. I'll go back to the Bad Boys weekend as well. For us, I'm. It's so weird for me because I am a huge. We've had conversations about this. I'm a huge Detroit Pistons fan.
Yeah, me
but
too.
I fell in love with the Pistons during the going to work days, right? In 2004. Yeah. So looking back, don't get me wrong. I love Zeke and Joe D and those guys. And I'm born and bred in the D, man. But my Jordan fandom kind of trumps it's weird. My Jordan fandom trumps the Bad Boys era. And I think that's kind of like a crime in some circles in the D. I got to watch where I say that at times. But that episode was that weekend was so special just because of the local tie here in Michigan and being from Detroit and watching how there's still this hate between Jordan and Zeke and Nat back and forth. That's really, really cool. Also, too, I want to give a big shout out to Charles Barkley. Watching those Barkley highlights, when they showed the Bulls going against the Suns, we forget how much of a dog Charles Barkley used to be, man. He was an animal. Seeing how he would run like a gazelle up and down the court at that size,
yes,
amazing. And then just, all of the behind-the-scenes footage that, it gradually had to come out because at first they were trying to set the scene with the historical context and whatnot, but the behind-the-scenes footage was great. Diving into Michael's competitive mentality, like I stated about episode 7, the end of episode 7. I mean, that competitiveness. Mike was different. Mike was just different. He was unlike anything we have ever seen. Period. And the closest is Kobe. The closest to that mentality is Kobe Bryant.
Yep. A lot of people didn't like the way it kept jumping back and forth. I heard that at all because they would start you in 98, something would happen or it was about to happen, then they would jump back however many years. Okay, how did we get here? Whatever it was, whether it was Pippen, Jordan, Rodman, whatever. Oh, here's Dennis Rodman joining the team. Oh, he's kind of a weirdo. Back to 1984, you find out why he's a weirdo.
How is that so hard to follow? Ryan, I would read so many tweets like, oh, this timeline is so confusing. I'm sitting there saying, what? Like you just said, like you just broke down that's how they would do it. It's not hard, man. Like, wake up, dude.
I don't know, man. I feel like I hate like sounding like I'm one of these elite journalist people or something, but I think sometimes people don't want to think. Like they just want to go, show me the basketball. Like that's all they want to hear. I'm like,
just lazy. We are in a lazy society. Even if we have to do, just 1% of thinking, we're like, oh my gosh, this is too hard.
They put the dates on there for you too. It's not like you had to count back as you went. Like they put it up.
Right.
98, 86. Like
that was like the biggest complaint. That's what I would when I would have on Twitter. They were like, oh, I just don't get this timeline. So I did not understand that whatsoever. Yeah. And also too, Mike smokes a lot of cigars, doesn't he?
Well,
man,
we knew
he loves his tequila and his cigars.
I knew he smoked, and I knew he smoked back then. I didn't know he was smoking in the locker room and stuff.
In the locker room,
I did not know that. I did not know that, man.
We got some classic moments, man, of him just, especially the baseball bat with the cigar. A good man, if you can talk mess when you're down. I love that. Yeah. Yeah, man. So I don't know what I'd give it. I saw a ton of people after it was done, and you know how things are. Like, this is the greatest sports documentary of all time. I wouldn't go that far. OJ Made in America is the greatest documentary, period. Sports, World War II, whatever. It's the greatest documentary I've ever seen. I'm with you. Yeah, I'm with you on the OJ.
Yeah, this was great. To me, I don't know what kind of letter grade to give it or anything because I think it's tough to live up to hype. And even though I knew I'd know a lot of this, I still couldn't wait to see it. And I was not disappointed. And when hype is so big, it's like a movie when you hear everybody says, oh, you got to see Avengers or something. Then you go see it and like, oh, it was okay because everybody told you it was the greatest thing ever.
Yep.
I didn't get that out of this, man. I still came out of it like, all right, yeah, this is good. I like this. This is
You
cool.
felt satisfied, right? Yeah. I felt satisfied. When it was said and done, before I came on here with you, man, I'm like, man, like I was craving more.
Yep.
So I'm curious. You got to give a letter grade. You got to give the people a letter grade, Ryan. What is it?
I mean,
I'm putting you on the spot. You got to, man.
I think you got to give it. I think it's a solid A- for sure.
That's where I was going.
I don't know how I can drop it. Yeah, you said 8, 9.5 out of 10. Like I don't know that I can. I don't know that I can give it a B. Like it's better than a B. Like I know what B's are. Believe me, the best I could do is B. Even the stuff that you're like, okay, Jordan has final say on all this, so it's going to be leading toward Jordan. Like the Dream Team stuff, which in the Dream Team book, He admits that he kept Isaiah off the team. So I don't know why all of a sudden he says he didn't. So
whoa, I didn't know that. I need to check that out.
Jack McCallum. I'll send you all sorts of stuff, brother.
Please.
Jack McCallum was the big Sports Illustrated writer back in the day, and he was the main guy. And he wrote the Dream Team book that came out right around the same time that the Dream Team doc came out. He was there for all the legendary matchups in practice over there and wherever they were at, Monte Carlo and all that stuff. Yeah. He's got interviews with the guys that he did for his book, and he's going to drop a podcast series himself where he's going to play the tapes from these interviews. And, yeah, I mean, it's in the dang book. So now all of a sudden, whatever. Stuff like that. There was a few things, but there was other things that he didn't really shy away from. You mentioned, Republicans buy sneakers too. He did get into that.
He did, which is shocking.
Might not be satisfied with the answer, but he got into that. The gambling, I think he got into it as much as he's going to get into it.
Yep.
I didn't have a problem.
And the whole conspiracy theories. This conspiracy. Can we stop with the you're not one of those, are you, Ryan? Don't tell me. All right, cool. Thank you, dude. It's just like when you look at that moment, and I think they did a great job of explaining and giving the backdrop with his father. And I loved how they had, I think it was Wilbon and David Aldridge. They kind of gave some context there and did give, some history when it comes to Michael being involved with certain people. But at the end of the day, there is no connection that you can draw to Michael's father's death and Michael's gambling. You just can't. So I thought they did a great job of addressing that as well, man. And like you said, though, man, when it comes to the young kids out there, I hope this documentary acts as a really nice history lesson.
I hope they watched it. I
hope so too.
I know a lot of them, like the one I said, did not watch it. But it's just funny though when you look back and you hear the things like, we know so much more about people now. And when he was at the casino with his dad until 2:30 a.m., I'm thinking, oh, he went home early tonight. That's what I'm thinking now. I'm like, oh, he went home early. Like, dude, back then that was such a big deal. It was like the end of the world. Oh my gosh, Michael was out till whatever. I'm like, do you know what these guys do normally? Like,
that's exactly. That's lightweight.
That's like going to church compared to what some of these other dudes are doing, man. Like, but that's the way it was back then.
I mean, can you imagine when they showed that montage? And they really broke down his schedule and how Mike always has to be on. When he gets that moment, that famous scene in the docuseries where he's just sitting back in his hotel room, smoking a cigar, just laying there like, this is what I like, man. I would give all of this up. It really, in this regard, I'll say this. LeBron living in the social media era, I give him a lot of respect because to deal with all of that attention, and it's times 1,000 now with social media, that takes a special kind of personality.
Yep.
And I do give LeBron a lot of credit, man, for handling that while being the best player on planet Earth. It's a tall task. He was worried about this docuseries and the public looking at him in a negative way. He was worried about that. He was really worried about that. And I can see where he's coming from, just from the standpoint of the footage of him bullying certain players, Scott Morrell, right? Like really going into him and how he was trying to push guys in a different way. I get that. But I really think, in my opinion, Ryan, Mike gained a lot of fans, in my opinion, when this is all said and done. I think that's going to be the dialogue we have tomorrow and as the days go by. I think he gained a lot of fans because there's a lot of people that have not seen Mike like that. And they respect, at the end of the day, that it led to championships, it led to winning. You get it at the end of the day.
Yep. Now, do I think he's kind of a jerk? Yeah, he probably is a little bit of a
jerk.
Yeah. I mean, we all can be. I mean, there are some things in there that probably weren't completely necessary. And, he probably is a little bit of a jerk. Is he arrogant? Yeah, he's arrogant. I don't think he's like a terrible guy or anything like that. Absolutely not. And obviously the competitor, I mean, come on. Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
And I did talk to one guy, and he won't mind that I say his name, Marquise Gray. I was with him, former Michigan State Spartan. I I was with him last Monday, the day after episodes 7 and 8, when they really got into him bullying Burrell and all the things he was saying to him. And Marquise goes, "Slope, it's pretty normal stuff. Like, that's what a locker room is." And I said, you know what? I thought the same thing for about 70% of it. And then there was a couple things I was like, maybe he shouldn't have said that. But that's what I said too. I'm like, wow, this really isn't that bad. He goes, look, that's like every day. That's 2 p.m.
It's
on
so
Tuesday,
normal.
Man. Yeah.
Yes, I was talking to my guy, and he won't mind me saying this, Darian Harris, former Michigan State football captain. I was talking to him about it, man, how he's like, I've heard way worse in a locker room. And look, for me, Ryan, I played high school ball, born and bred on the west side of Detroit. And look, I'm not even going to lie. I am that kind of guy. They're probably not as much now as I was back then, but that's how I played the game. I would talk mess to you. And it's just a cultural thing, playing hoops in the inner city of Detroit.
Right. And
those things Mike was saying on that doc, I'm like, that was just a normal summer. Right. On the west side of Detroit back in 04. You know what I mean? That was nothing back in the day. So, I think at the end of the day, people are going to look at it, especially athletes. I'm really interested, Ryan, to see how many athletes out there this really inspires. Because we've seen so many tweets out there from certain guys in the pros and collegiately as well. And I'm sure, for the kids that did watch it, I don't know how you can watch that and look at how Mike went about approaching winning and not be inspired. I'm curious to know, when athletes talk about this, when we get back to our regularly scheduled programming in the world of sports, how many athletes are going to say, yeah, man, I watched that doc, man, and it took my work ethic to a new level. It took my approach to the game to a new level. You know what I mean?
I hope it does, man. I've seen a mixed bag of a lot of things, man. I've either seen that he's the GOAT. I've seen LeBron's still the GOAT. And I've seen, I've seen a little bit of everything on that. I did see one, and I wish I remembered who it was, who said, like, when he was harping on Burrell last week, like, oh, there's no way I would have dealt with that. If Mike would have said that to me, he would have had to see me. I did see one dude, and I wish I remembered who it was.
Was it I think was that Haslam?
It might, yeah.
It was. I think Haslam. It was Udonis. Yes, it was Haslam.
Yes, it was. It was Udonis.
Yeah, Udonis came out and said, "I respect him. He's the greatest of all time. But if he would have called me the B word, I would have had to go at him."
Yeah, we're gonna have issues. So. Yeah, I've seen a little mix of everything, but no, I think overall, man, it's great. Any other last words, man? Last thoughts, last things that you want to get out or say, or that stood out to you, man?
It was so cool, every week to see Mike in this light. And it was no holds bar. He was so open and answered everything. I love that. And, for me, there will never be another Michael Jordan. There will be people who I think adopt that mentality moving forward, but I don't think we'll ever see that kind of competitiveness, that kind of, it's like borderline psychotic, where you're making up stuff to see, what's gonna push you to go out there and give who or which team the business. I don't think we'll ever see another man that driven, that kind of, like, quote unquote psycho to win at the end of the day. And I just hope people appreciate it, man. Appreciate it. I think, we got to give the greats their flowers when they're still alive, not after it's all said and done. And I think Mike is going to get a lot of flowers in the coming weeks, months, and years due to this docuseries.
I hope so, man. You got a nice bouquet right next to you to give him, man.
There we go. There we go, Mike.
Well, and if anybody else saw the other ones, I said this. That's how I became a Jordan fan. Exactly what you just said. It was in the Blazers series. I remember the Shrug game vividly, but I don't remember if it was that day or when was it. I know Magic said, whose game is it? It's Michael Jordan's game. But later in this series, or in that game, or whenever it was, he said something about, you better set your VCRs. And that was what we had before DVRs, kids. They were tapes that we had to, set timers to and everything. And he said, set your VCRs, because this isn't going to go forever. You better document it now. And that hit me so hard because I was Bad Boys to death, and I still didn't like him in 92. I told stories. We made fun of kids that had Jordan shoes.
What?
Oh, yeah. Like,
That's funny.
You
That's
weren't
funny.
cool. You sucked. What are you doing with those? And I'll never forget, my boy Brian had the maroon 6s. Beat it, dude. Those sucked.
Wow.
But then that summer was the finals, 92. And when Magic said that, something clicked with me. Yeah, this dude is awesome. I am not going to sit here and hate. I'm not going to go 40 years down the road saying, man, I wish I would have paid attention. You know what I mean? I wish I missed out. I wish I wasn't going to do that. And from that point on, I was hooked to that guy. And the Dream Team was that summer as well. I had Dream Team freaking everything, man. You name it. I wanted everything you could possibly have Dream Team. Not necessarily Mike, but man.
So you credit Magic Johnson. You credit Magic Johnson for your appreciation for MJ then when he said those words. Because it's so true. It kind of hits you. It hits different, right?
Yeah. When
you hear that, dang, yeah, you're right. This dude. Because when you watch Mike play, this is the thing, Ryan, when you watch Michael Jordan highlights, when you watch him play, he just played the game so differently.
Yeah.
That athleticism and it was really artful. That's the first time when I watched Michael Jordan play, it was the first time I said, wow, you can be artful with the game of basketball. Watching him drive and hang in the air and go on the other side and flip it up off the glass and glide in the air and come down gracefully. It's rare to see that. I can't name another player other than maybe Kobe.
I only saw MJ play twice in my life, in person, in the building. And I hear other people say this, something changes when he is around. He's one of, if not the number one person on earth. When he walks in the building, you can tell that he's in the building. It's just something different about that guy. There's an aura around that guy. Again, the mystique. When he enters that, it's like something special is going on. And Al, I've covered, however many Final Fours. I think I'm up to 7 or something like that. I've been to the finals twice. I've been to the Super Bowl. I've been to the PGA Championship. I've been to all of it, man. I've been to all of it. 2 World Series, Floyd Mayweather fights I've been to. A regular season game in March or April, whatever it was, April 19th, I think, of 1995, while he's wearing this freaking jersey.
The 45.
The Palace of Auburn Hills. It was like we were at the finals. Grant Hill.
Wow.
Rookie against Michael Jordan. That his airness is back. And we're sitting on the roof. Something different, man. And then the second time I saw him is when he came back. I was in college. I was senior at Grand Valley, interning at the ABC station out there. The Pistons played the preseason game in Grand Rapids. Jordan played. That was when he first came back, and he played out there, and it was the same thing. They went from selling – they always used to play a preseason game out there. They would sell however many tickets. When Jordan announced he was playing, because he wasn't going to play, and then when he announced he was playing, sold out in freaking minute. And it was – and he's wearing a Wizards jersey. It was still – like the president was in the building, you name it. Whoever, the biggest dude you can think of. It was insane. It's like you're in the present. It sounds so stupid to say something like that about another dude.
Well, no,
it's like that.
It's like that, huh?
I bet you'd be like that today. If you went somewhere, if you went to a Charlotte game and he walked in, I bet you that whole place would just, I don't know if you're ever lucky enough to be in the same room with the dude. You'll feel it.
I'm sure.
Especially being a fan, you're definitely gonna feel it. But you'll be like a girl at a Backstreet Boys concert is what you're gonna be like. But
I'm usually cool, Ryan. I'm usually cool. But if I met Michael Jordan, I would be like a little girl, dude. I'm screaming out. I may faint. You may be calling the ambulance, dude. So yeah.
Dude, the only dude, you might be able to think of one, but the only dude I've never interviewed, and at that game, He was. And when he does do interviews, he talks. I think they talked a little bit about that. And that he'll talk to everybody. He'll sit there and do his interviews, his scrums or whatever. And they had him at a podium in Grand Rapids. And, dude, you would have thought it was the finals, man. Place is packed. He had his own room, an interview room for a preseason game. Like, it was insane. And he's up at the podium. He asked, like, maybe answered, I don't know, not 10 questions. And I had my hand up in the back, and I was working as an intern. I was also the sports editor of Grand Valley's newspaper. So I'm like, well, that gives me enough credentials to talk to friggin' Michael Jordan.
Yeah.
I raise my hand. They look, and they call on me in the very back. They call on me right then. The Wizards PR dude comes in and goes, Mike, we got to get on the bus right now. He goes, all right, thanks, guys. Gets up and walks away.
What?
No lie.
You were that close to talking to Mike, asking the Mike a question.
At me. Dude points at me, and then the main dude comes in, Mike, we got to get on the bus right now. I'm like, oh.
That's a great story, Ryan. That is so good.
I've never talked to him since. I think the only time I've ever been in the building with him was at the Final Four in Detroit when he, who the heck else? The Admiral, John Stockton, and somebody else. It might have been Larry Bird. I don't know. He must have already been in. Anyway, those three made the Hall of Fame, and they always announce it at the Final Four. And we didn't go to the press conference that morning for some reason, probably because it was at like noon, and we would have been there, all night. So we didn't go to that press conference, man. But, yeah, I don't even think I've ever even been in the building with him ever again after that.
Wow. That is such a – those stories are so good, Ryan. And that's the thing, man. I'm going to meet Mike one day. That's on my goal bucket list. And I just hope I can keep it together, brother. It's going to happen one day. I don't know when, but it's just so – and then when he does interviews, like you said, Ryan, I mean, we saw it in the doc, man. He's really playful with the media. Yeah. He's not an a-hole to the media. He'll answer your questions and provide context and crack a joke or two here and there. And I've heard that before from other reporters who covered Mike during those days back in the day, like, beat writers back in the 80s who covered the Pistons. And I've talked to a few writers who have interviewed Mike, and he seems very down to earth and personable during those moments. You know what I mean?
Yep. Well, and I think that's another reason why he works so well, because if you go back and you look at his commercials, he's always smiling. He's a good-looking dude. He was dressed impeccably, even though now he looks kind of goofy with his suits that he's wearing.
Oh, the 90s style?
Yeah. Now he looks a little goofy, but back then, man, that was it. His commercials, he always was shown in a great light, laughing, having fun, messing around, whatever that was. Despite what might have been going on behind the scenes, normal people didn't see that,
Right.
And then when he did do interviews back in the day, if you go watch him, there's some great ones with Arsenio. There's some great ones later in his career with Leno, where Leno rips on him a lot, where he's pimping his cologne and he's making fun of him and stuff for smelling sweet and all this kind of stuff. Go watch those. Yeah. Those are pretty funny.
And the SNL. I saw the SNL episode that MJ did, which is classic.
Good, dude. I'm good.
So good.
I'm smart enough, and doggone people like me. So good.
That's great. So good.
It all was perfect, man. And so that's what people saw.
Right.
They didn't see this guy behind the scenes. They saw, wow, he's super good, and he's humble, and he's nice looking, and he's funny, and he's blah 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 blah. People love him.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. Shoes, and he sells me French fries, whatever it was.
Right. That was the outside persona, right? But and that's why this doc was just so raw and real. And one of the quotes that's going to stand out to me, man, is that there's a price to winning.
Yep.
There's a price, man. You got to pay a price. There's a price for anything, man. But anything truly great, there's a price you got to pay. There's a sacrifice you got to make, and that was profiled beautifully in this docuseries, man.
It worked, and
it
worked. Heard the other guys, most of them, not Luke Longley, but not Craig Hodges, but most of the dudes all said it worked. It worked.
It did. I love BJ. BJ Armstrong was one of my favorite interviewees of the docuseries, and BJ really put in perspective that delicate balance that Mike
Yeah.
that Mike had with his teammates and the organization. Like, they knew that, okay, yeah, he's pushing us, but at the end of the day, you know, hey, we win the championships. BJ did an awesome job. He may have been, I don't know. Yeah, he may have been my favorite interviewee throughout the entire docuseries.
It was well done. I'm glad
Very
they
well
got
done,
it out
man.
here. And how about the fact that episodes 9 and 10, episode 10 just got finished like Monday.
Monday, I heard that they were scrambling to get it done because it got pushed up, of course. And amazing job. And I give a lot of props to ESPN and Netflix for you know, giving the go and saying, yeah, man, let's release the tapes, man.
Well,
I love
the
it.
dude's editing, man. Like, you're not
so good
at work.
Oh.
They're all editing at home now, and they're all doing things. There's like 5 of them, I think I heard, and they're all editing at home and then like Dropboxing it or whatever the heck they're doing. Vimeo, I believe they were using, and then they're looking at it, then they're piecing it together. I mean, because of coronavirus, you know.
Coronavirus, man, incredible.
Tell everybody if they don't know you. I'm sure some people who don't know you are going to see this, man. Tell them where they can find you at.
It's a really trying time for us all. But you doing this, bro, you know, we're trying to find creative ways to serve our audience, our sports audience, right? Because we don't have live sports. It's such a wild time right now, you know, staying in the game and giving the public, you know, conversations like this, because sports are usually the escape. During moments of dire time in our nation, right? And with that being snatched away, we're finding different ways to bring that content. So I want to give you a shout out for your podcast and you putting this together and having me on. I thank you. Shucks. Much love to you, bro. So I'm sending you some flowers right now.
I want that one in the middle right there, man.
Hey, I got you. They're yours. They're yours, man. And if you don't know, guys, I am Al Martin, sports reporter and host at WKAR TV and radio. You can listen to my live radio show 1 p.m. weekdays from 1 to 2 p.m. on WKAR AM 870, 105.1 FM. Or if you're not in the area and you want to check the show out, you can just go to WKAR.org and listen that way as well.
It's awesome, man. He does a great job out there in Lansing covering all things, not just Michigan State, not just Lansing. I'm sure you're going to be spending most of that hour on this tomorrow, unless we have some kind of breaking news going on in the sports world. But, man, I appreciate you taking some time, man. Been a minute since I've seen you, so it's good to see you, man. Glad everybody.
I miss you, bro. I miss you.
No, man. One of these days we'll get back. Might be a year from now. Who the heck knows, man? But good to see you, man. Glad to hear everything's going good with you, my man.
Hey, you too, bro. Stay up, Ryan. We'll be in touch, man. This was fun.
Yes, sir. Thank you, everybody, for watching, man. This was awesome. I think we're going to do this one more time. For anybody out there that's a wrestling fan, as we talked about earlier, they got, instead of The Last Dance, they have The Last Ride with The Undertaker going on right now on the WWE Network. We're going to do the same thing, wrapping that up as well. So for the 4 of you that care about that, we'll have that for you coming up next Sunday. So appreciate everybody for watching and listening. And Al, especially you, my man. Take care, buddy.
Hey, you do the same, Ryan. Thank you, bro.
All right.